Yo, yo, yo. What's good? What's good? It's Stormy B-Man, and I am back. Welcoming you to the Tuesday Tussle for this Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. We're calling this episode Brandon Figueroa into the Lion's Den. Yeah. Listen, it's not so much about Brandon as it is about the virtuous effort that he made when he ventured over into Liverpool, London, UK over this past weekend and lifted the WBA featherweight title from Nick Ball. You see, it wasn't an easy task to go into hostile territory and come out victorious, especially when so much is stacked against you. Right now, there is a surge in the achievement of British fighters. They have pretty much surpassed a number of the American fighters, some of the best that the sport has to offer from the Western side. They haven't measured up. So to see a fighter like Figueroa, who's had his ups and downs in his own career, go over and persevere through trial, it's an achievement in this modern day. We have fighters who have been anointed and have achieved far less, have been tested far less, which is why you hear me speaking on this young man and his merits. I'd also like to pay compliment to his camp coordinator and trainer, Manny Robles, who represented so well, even through the difficulties that they found themselves. Because I've done a couple of videos on the fight, the outcome, and even in the aftermath, what we were informed of, the difficulties from the ball camp trying to get away with glove issues, hand wrap issues, stalling out the opponent, which is the Figueroa camp, by missing the weigh-in time by over an hour. Just making people wait and trying to put them in positions of discomfort. But see, that's the time when a fighter is tested. Your resolve, your patience, your vigilance, your focus. You see, all of these things is what we talk about here on the Tuesday Tussle, which now you see why it is leading my subject for tonight's show. I like to try to articulate what it really means for a fighter to be a complete fighter. And in doing so, he has to be able to take on all challenges, including the unknown as well as the perceived. You have to be ready, mentally prepared. We know the physical preparation is always a part of the process, but some people forget about the mental and psychological preparation. And it doesn't show up any more than when either the test of patience, intelligence, ring IQ, what makes you uncomfortable are brought to the forefront. So in that, we saw Figueroa come through in flying colors. It's something to pay attention to and not gloss over, because some of your favorite fighters of today don't measure up. They truly do not. They are lacking in so many areas, but the most superficial, which is kind of like what you can see as an exoskeleton, what's on the surface, that's a facade. And the right masonry man can chip away at that facade, and the rest of that fighter, the person, can come crumbling down. You need to understand that when it comes to this sport of boxing, and you need to understand how that works in real life. Because as we said many times on this show, it goes hand in hand. So welcome everybody. Appreciate that you stopped by to tune in for another tussle. We take a quick moment and see who we got in the building. I want to say salute to Columbia, who put the links for the channel in the chat early. Thank you so much for that. We've got Black Martial Arts Society out there. Hey, Black Martial Arts Society, man, put the link for that video you uploaded earlier in the chat for us, brother, because I would like people to lay eyes on that. That was quite a piece that you put together. I enjoyed listening, and I also shared it. You know, that was pretty nice. And we like to support one another out here. Great editorial. We got Prince Savage in the building this evening. What's going on? Salute to you. Universal Truth is back with us, saying salute Sensei in chat. EJ, Eric Jordan in the building saying Stormy B-Man, salute Sensei. And over on the Rumble app, where he's joined as well, saying for the tussle, Sensei, your knowledge and wisdom is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much, brother, for your donation to the channel. Yes. Who else we got in the building? Let's see. Del Riv is out there saying salute Stormy in chat. Chilltown is in the building. What's happening? Yes, sir. King Styles Productions is out there saying salute Stormy B-Man in chat. What's going on with you? Lewis Hinton is back. Yes, sir. What's happening? Welcome down, Van Houder in the building. Salute. Is that the missus? Salute, Mrs. Van Houder. Glad to see you. We had a wonderful time interviewing your son and husband on the in the Strong House on Sunday evening. I was at work. Unfortunately, I couldn't participate as much as I would have liked to. I would have had a lot more to say, but there was a lot going on in the background at the job. So, but I participated as much as I could, but we hope to have him back. And then that's when I will really, you know, get a chance to speak with him. But you got quite a young talent there in your son, and hope that he go far. We will be watching. Yes. Anthony Bolton is out there saying salute. And who else we got here? Mrs. Van Houder. Okay. So is that welcome down? Is that Mr.? And then we got Mrs. Okay, let me see if I could hold on. Okay. Mrs. Wait a minute. Hold. It jumped on me. Okay, Mrs. We got a wrench for you there, Mrs. So we have the family. Okay, Dad, I got you and the missus. I got both of y'all with a wrench now. So welcome to the channel, and I appreciate you all supporting us over here. Yeah. So, and this is what I was talking about, Mr. Van Houder. When I was talking about the Tuesday tussle, this is my, coach's show. I like to, from the mind of a coach, mentor. This whole thing about boxing, fighting, and everyday life. It's a marriage of experiences that we all go through. And as a mentor and coach, I like to try to take analogies and metaphoric circumstances and pull people into a way where they can relate, even though you may not be a fighter, amateur or pro, but you fight for your life every day. And when I say that, I mean, do you know what it requires to take one breath for your body? You see, people don't think of life in those measures, but at the same time, it is. The moment that your breath and breathing become obstructed, you begin to struggle, right? And you try to clear the airways. You try to clear the path so you can get that oxygen in. You see what I mean? That's what that's all about. Now, trial in everyday life, just as Brandon Figueroa found when he went over to the UK. They tried to test the young man in so many different ways, he and his camp. But fortunately, he had the experience to fall back upon with Manny. Manny is a good coach. He always has been, but he doesn't get the notoriety that he should because there are circumstances that he doesn't necessarily always have control over. But if you guys remember back just a few years ago when Andy Ruiz Jr. defeated Anthony Joshua in New York, Manny was in Ruiz's corner on that night. It was Ruiz who got full of himself in the aftermath of that successful night and fired Manny because he didn't want to pay him. You know, it's funny how it comes back to that, right? Fighters will fire trainers when something goes wrong or if their career gets derailed by a loss and setback. There's an old adage that if you're good at something in life, don't do it for free. And when you are as such, people should pay, but the price that they pay should have something to do with how valuable what the material or source or resource that they're paying for is to their life. If it's an enrichment, then the payment can be ever flowing. If it is a detriment, then it's cheap, huh? Yeah. But I'll tell you something. This country and capitalism has really clouded the judgment of the people, the masses, because people often think that they should acquire, pay for, purchase things that are totally unnecessary, that won't serve you much good at all. But it got your money, huh? I got you. What do you think taxes are? Ooh, did I say that? Oh, let me backtrack a little bit. Anyway, so Figueroa and his people went over there, and Ball thought that they would sun them. But what's really interesting is it was the Figueroa camp that was the more experienced at the world-class level. So they kind of played themselves. They did all of that, and the young man couldn't reach the final bell, huh? And I'm almost certain that they thought that they would. But see, it's not how you start out. It's how you finish, huh? Yeah. Finishing up strong is imperative to having success. Yeah. Stephen L. the Mac, what's good with you, brother? I see you out there. I'm not ignoring you. How you doing? Yeah. So the best part of Figueroa's victory was how he handled everything in victory. And though the camp of Ball misbehaved, I got a video coming out about that, they still conducted themselves with respect. I like that. You know, it was an admirable trait and characteristic to put on display. Mm-hmm. We have other fighters that are given credit, publicity, promotion that can't touch what you saw on display by this particular camp from Saturday night. And I stress that because we often miss what's important, because a woman can walk down the street and she could be scantily clad, which that means is wearing some very revealing clothes. Because I'm an older dude, I use certain phrases. Mr. and Miss Van Houten, they would understand, but some of you younger cats out there may not. You know, what is Stormy talking about? Scantily clad. What does that mean? Yeah, it means wearing revealing, very revealing outfits. Anyway, she could be walking down the street and traffic can be going to and fro. But there will be near misses and, in some incidents, accidents for her being a distraction, taking your eye off of what you're supposed to be doing, which is driving down the street. But you see her and you can't help but to look and glance. And next thing you know, you've glanced a little too much and your car drifted across that little line that divides to and fro traffic. And into oncoming traffic you go, bang! Because you didn't focus up. There's always going to be some distractions out there in life. There's always going to be roadblocks set before you. But you need to be prepared to avoid, take detour, and sometimes even reroute. Wisdom teaches that. But some of you don't get to the whiz part. You only explore and exploit the dumb part. Huh? Yeah. Man, what happened to your Camaro? Oh man, had a little fender bender, huh? I was driving down the strip one evening and say no more, brother. Say no more. Mm-hmm. I was driving once. I was with my best friend. We were maybe about 25, 26 at the time. Driving in downtown Chicago. We were on a main street, Michigan Avenue, near the Magnificent Mile. That's a certain strip in Chicago. All of a sudden, as we were going through an intersection where we had the right of way, some guy came flying the crossway, blew his light. I don't know if he had lost his brakes or just was, driving recklessly, maybe had something to drink, whatever. And as he came toward us we were going to impact at a point and position, I was able to slow down, weave around, and he went on past, and we finished crossing the intersection. And my friend, his name was Carl Davis, my best friend in life, he says, "Whoa!" He says, "Man, good driving. Damn good driving." I said, "Man, that wasn't me." I said, "Jesus took the wheel. That wasn't me. I can't take credit for that because I wasn't prepared, Yeah, I saw it, but you only have a certain amount of time to react, if anything. God must have did one of those things like my car went a certain kind of way, and that car went a certain kind of way. But I'm sharing that because it's like, one thing I was focused. I wasn't distracted. But I had no way of handling. In other words, I'm not taking credit. Oh, I just made it. I just missed him. Or no, just like I told my buddy, I said, "Hey, wasn't me, man." Sometimes we need that type of help in life as well. Oftentimes, and we don't even acknowledge it. It's imperative to be more well-rounded. That can help you through. It can get you from point A to point B. Sometimes it can get you back home, especially for those of us who work, because there's no guarantee that you return home the next day after work, Just like when a fighter climbs those stairs to enter that ring, he may not come down those stairs the way that he went in, the condition and shape that he went in. So focusing up and understanding what it's like to be in the lion's den. Because a lion's den is a safe haven for that animal. And he will protect that space with fervor and everything that he has. So here we are, and I'm talking about Into the Lion's Den for Figueroa. He found himself in a situation where they were looking to protect all that they had in Nick Ball, a man of very slight stature, 5'2" in the featherweight division, is a pretty tiny guy. Monster Inoue is bigger than he is. But the protection that they had structured around him was not the type of protection that would require he to be victorious. They kind of mixed up the recipe. You see, there was a time when he came, I think, to, what was it, in Saudi? Let me look it up on BoxRec real quick and see where he went, because I want to say it was his challenge of Ray Vargas. See where we at with that, because I don't want to be incorrect about that. Man, BoxRec does a horrible thing of not putting the WBA title holders in their rankings and ratings. Yeah, Riyadh season. That's where they were, over there in Riyadh, Kingdom Arena in Riyadh, back in March of 2024. Ball went over there and faced Vargas. He even knocked down Vargas twice in the 8th and 11th round, and still lost a split decision. Now, though that was neutral grounds for both parties involved, the Mexican Vargas, who's 5'10", had significant height and reach advantages over Nick Ball. And he boxed his way to that decision. Many people thought he lost. But Ball just couldn't pull the victory out. That was not a Lion's Den situation, because like I said, it was neutral ground for both. And it would have been interesting to see if they had competed in the UK, what type of decision that would have been for Vargas. Because there's a great chance that he would have lost that unanimously. You know. Did Vargas retire after that? Because I'm looking at his blocks, Rick, and it doesn't look or appear that he's fought since then. That's 2 years ago. 2 years next month. Interesting. Anyway, but I put this together for you guys just to talk about it, you know. But there's a little something else that I wanted to talk about too on tonight's show. I had a chance to check out the Hall of Game with Roy Jones and Andre Ward. And they had the attorney on there who once worked with Andre Ward. And they were having a nice conversation about Shakur Stevenson rejecting the WBC's demand that he pay a sanctioning fee of $120,000, like $125,000 after he won his fight over Teofimo Lopez a couple weeks ago. The WBC is out of control. And of course, Shakur told them he'd rather give that money to his little sister, you know, or whatever, than to pay these guys. But Jones Jr. and Ward had a great conversation about this. And when they talked about it, the attorney who worked for Andre Ward Josh Dubin, he had some interesting things to say. And I thought I would share that this evening because instead of just doing a whole video on it, I wanted to take a part and portion of the Tuesday Tussle and share this with you guys because you see, these are the aspects of boxing that a lot of people don't know about. But when that information is available, we as a community, the LDBC, we try to share it with you guys. But there are a lot of naysayers out there and doubters that kind of try to cover these things up. And for the Van Houter family, this is kind of valuable information for you because you know exactly what you'll be facing when we're able to share tidbits here and there just to help keep you on track for what to expect, as well as what you already know to reinforce and regalvanize your preparation as you head forward in your son's career. But check this out. I'm going to share some of this with you and comment a little bit on it. But it was an amazing interview.
But I want to jump straight into the main reason we have you on the show today. You know, Shakur Stevenson became a 4-division world champion January 31st, put on a flawless performance against Teofimo Lopez, and he didn't win the WBC belt for that 4th title or that 4th weight class. He won the WBO belt. But a few days later, February 4th, we start hearing from the WBC again. The WBC strikes again. It's something else that they have a problem with, and they strip Shakur from his 135-pound title, which he brought into this new weight class. He, for a few hours or a few days, I should say, he was a champion in both weight classes. Josh, you know how I feel about sanctioning bodies. I struggle with them. We've had some good relationships with Paco throughout the years, the BO. Haven't had any issues with the BA or the IBF per se, but the structure and the amount of money that fighters have to pay and the fluidity in which these sanctioning bodies apply their bylaws and their rules, it bothers me and it troubles me. And the sanctioning body that troubles me the most is Mauricio Suleiman and the WBC. Please unpack why Shakur got stripped and where things currently stand with Team Stevenson and the WBC.
Now, before Josh Dubin replies, I put an image up of Chris Mannix and Mauricio Suleiman, who earlier this afternoon on Chris Mannix's channel gave an interview, and Chris Mannix, for the first time that I've seen in his journalistic career, he pressed Suleiman, particularly over this sanctioning fee that the WBC tried to impose on Shakur. And remember, this is hot on the heels of what they tried to do from last September with Terrence Crawford's victory over Canelo Alvarez. They wanted to charge him an exorbitant amount of a sanctioning fee, far more than what the other sanctioning bodies had agreed to. And in this instance with Shakur, they're going to even allude to the fact that Suleiman has a problem with the fact that Shakur is associated with Terrence Crawford, meaning that he has an axe to grind. Yeah. They're going to speak on this. They're going to reveal it. And they're not talking nasty about Suleiman, but they are questioning his politics when it comes to their sanctioning rules and regulations, the so-called deceptiveness and how he articulates why they do what they do, and the fact that he's an outright liar. Okay? But listen, people.
Fluidity, huh? I like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Fluidity. Yeah, I mean, it's an odd one, right? I mean, I'll preface everything because I'm nothing if not careful. These are my opinions, and people can take from them what they want. And I have some strong ones. Look, I've known Mauricio since I was, basically a kid. I was in my late 20s when I had the opportunity to manage the great Lennox Lewis. And, I came to this sport because I wanted to help people. There was, I was trying to find the quote, but I remember reading this many, many years ago, that I think it was an article in Sports Illustrated that boxing rents souls from the worst circumstances and the poorest neighborhoods, and then spits them out when it's done with them. And I hate people getting taken advantage of, and I hate bullies, and I hate the fact that because boxing doesn't have a centralized players union, league, players rep, that it's like the wild, wild west. So I know there's a long answer to a short question, because I don't think there's a single solution, but my biggest problem, I know Mauricio a long time. I think he can be very emotional. I think that he oftentimes shoots before he thinks. I think that he throws rocks and hides his hands sometimes. So, and the only way that I've been successful in life and business representing fighters is to be as direct as I can. And, and as transparent as I can. So I went to Mauricio, but I didn't go by myself. I had Shakur on the phone with me. I had my partner, James Prince, on the phone with me, and we told him what we planned to do. Now, this was after getting text messages and phone calls from him accusing us of, negotiating without telling him and all. I don't pay attention to any of that stuff. It's all silly. I have my own children to raise, and I'm trying to do a great job of. I try to get in as little conflict as possible in life now.
That's right.
So I told him what we planned to do. I said, if there's a way that you could figure out that the WBC can make some sort of commemorative belt, I know that there's no shortage of those. There's all sorts of creative ways to invent a belt or a statue or whatever they do. I know Lennox gave me one that they gave to him that looks like something from a Mayan temple. He didn't want to take it home, but whatever. I think that's well-intentioned.
Right.
And I never really heard back from him about that. And we got his permission. I don't know why we needed to get his permission, but we thought it was the honorable thing to do. There wasn't any.
Right, just to jump in real quick, this is as Shakur was going up to 140, permission to go up to 140 and fight for another belt, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It was just to let him know what we were doing, and that we did not want to vacate the belt at 135. So he was.
Now, you notice he said they did not want to vacate the belt, but they ended up getting stripped from the belt. And it was because Mauricio wanted a kickback for a fight that they had nothing to do with. It was for Teofimo's WBO title and Ring Magazine title. You see?
Fine with it. And then all of a sudden, a couple of weeks before the fight, there's like this chorus that starts, and it starts with emails, and you're not getting back to me. Now, I had a personal issue going on in my life for a period of 4 days that I had to attend to, and we had already worked out an agreement. And then there was a demand for a 3% sanction fee. And there was a demand for $120,000. And I, to me, that's shocking. There's a fight that you have no role in, you're not going to sanction. And then there was a phone call. I don't remember if he called me or I called him. And during that phone call, specific mention was made, of Shakur's relationship with Terrence Crawford. Now, listen, that was very bizarre to me. And I told Mauricio that I don't understand what relevance that has. I don't understand why we're talking about that, but Terrence and I aren't best buddies. I love Terrence. He's a great guy. He's an amazing champion. But Shakur's choice of friends has nothing to do with this guy.
Now you see that? Straight out of this man's mouth, Mauricio is telling them in private conversation, he's questioning why Shakur is hooked up with Bud. And he's probably asking him, oh, you don't want to pay the fee because Bud didn't pay the fee? What is this? You see what I'm saying? But understand where we are now with the climate of what's going on, people. Andre Ward has been, I think it's on Zuffa with the fights over there now. He's kind of back over there with Max Kellerman and everything. And guess who's running the Zuffa operation? Dana White. And also, guess what? Dana White doesn't like the sanctioning bodies. Neither does Turki Al-Sheikh, whom they are railing against. And don't forget, when Bud Crawford did that interview, well, it wasn't an interview, when he did the live stream telling the WBC to go flip off, right? Because he wasn't going to pay them nothing. They were trying to get $300,000 from him, remember? And speculating on a purse that he may have gotten, just like they speculated on Shakur's purse, because Suleiman is the one that mentioned the money that they were supposedly or allegedly being paid for their bouts. He wants their money. He's not going after the Latino fighters' money like that, though. He's not stripping the Latino fighters of their titles, though. What is really going on here? And you hear Mr. Dublin talking about it, and he's putting it out there. Andre Ward is giving him a platform to discuss it. Because guess what? Suleiman, who was on with Chris Mannix, as I said earlier today, which is why I got their double image up there. You could go to Chris Mannix's page and you will hear this interview. I've never heard Mannix go in on someone with the fervor that he went after Mauricio, and Mauricio got all touched and bothered about it because he was being questioned. He said that he was being attacked, but it wasn't that he was being attacked. He was being asked the hard question: why are you doing this? You have nothing to do with that man's fight. You actually gave approval that he could go and have the fight, and then you're going to charge him a fee. And he's already defended your title months ago, and he paid his sanctioning fees for your title months ago. But you still want in this man's pocket for something that you had nothing to do with. Unethical is the WBC. And it's a shakedown. But notice how many channels are really talking about this, people? Huh? You got all these people out here that's so-called loving the sport of boxing, but not keeping the integrity. How many videos have you seen of people talking about Brandon Figueroa? I've done 3 shows speaking on the man in one video. 4 if you count the video breakdown that I did a week ago before the fight. So I've done my part. But where are they? It's all smoke and mirrors when it comes to this kind of stuff, because you could tell who really has the integrity for the sport and who doesn't. And Suleiman is banking that all of us don't do this. But shout out to Andre Ward, whom I've had my issues regarding him, but I really enjoyed the fact that he aired this today, because it's a wonderful way to come at the corruption that this sport is seeing tremendously. And let us not forget also, you know, my brother Drew Titan has mentioned Daniel Kinahan, right? Mauricio has a close relationship with Daniel Kinahan. Oh, yeah. Let me allow Josh to continue.
And, you know, he mentioned, well, you know what's going on with us in the ring. And I said, I'm not interested in any of that. We can talk about something reasonable, but double what we end up paying is not reasonable. Mm-hmm. And when I say double what we end up paying, what they were asking for is double what we ended up paying the very organization that sanctioned the fight.
Whoa, did you hear that? He wants double of what they actually paid the WBO. He wants double that. So let's just say that the WBO may have taken, what was it, maybe 75,000? This guy wants 125. Are you listening?
Wow.
So I had a real issue with it, but I did plan to address it after the fight. Look, the reason I latched onto the word fluid is that I have the rules up right here. The rules. These rules are, in my experience, bendable, breakable, open to interpretation, rewritten. That's my experience. But there's a clear rule here. 3.14.1. If a champion wins a title of another organization, the WBC may grant the champion 15 days to elect which title the champion will keep and which the champion will vacate. Now look, what is it? To quote the words of my brother James Prince, I was born tonight, but not last night. I can read. I know what this says. Mm-hmm. We were not given those 15 days, and maybe the WBC's retort would be, well, it says may. We may do this. We may do that. There's a lot of that may going on in these rules. There's a lot of this in our sole discretion. We will. And so I just, look, the whole thing to me, in my opinion, stinks to high heaven. So I think where we stand now with them is, you know, shame on them. This should be, this is a crowning moment in this young man's life. And to watch him grow up, you know, from I know him since he's 18, 19, and to watch his personal evolution, his professional evolution, and to have it marred by this even a little bit, it should sit wrong with people. And I think it has.
What up, Fight fans? It's your boy Ak. And I'm Barack the Boxing Bully. And we teamed up with our partners at...
You see, that whole thing right there, Josh was able to break it down. He has the WBC rules in front of him, and he's saying that all of this stuff did not apply with firmness. In other words, he say the WBC, the rhetoric says it may. So they're acting on impulse, not on what is etched in stone. And then he tries to go back and refer to it. Well, it's in the rules. No, it's not in the rules. He is trying to skim money off of the back of Shakur Stevenson and was trying to do the same to Bud Crawford, who told him to take his belt and go. He said he's undisputed and you can't do anything about that. The people know who the champ is, just like the people know now who the WBO champ is after Shitty Cuz took care of Teofimo. But this stuff that they're doing, it's inappropriate. Big time.
That I want to get clarity on, or at least comment on, you know, because, you know, fans don't understand, you know, people that are watching this unfold don't understand. So you hear people say you should pay your bills. In other words, if you're going to fight for a belt or be associated with a certain belt, you should pay for your bills. And I personally don't think you can speak on that. If you can.
Now listen, where he's getting ready to go, because you got these so-called former fighters like Oscar De La Hoya and everything who decided to chime in when Bud wouldn't pay that fee, and certain others in the sport who are named people trying to say, oh, Bud is being a bad guy. He's not paying for it. No, listen, what Ward is getting ready to get Josh to say, listen to this, people.
Never dug in your pocket and paid a sanctioning fee, number one. Number two, you don't hear the other sanctioning bodies, at least publicly. I know there's a lot going on behind the scenes, but the BO, WBO, WBA, IBF, you don't hear them clamoring and positioning themselves for more sanctioning fees or weaponizing their belt or saying things like, well, you got in this position because of the WBC belt. What do you say when those same rules that you're referencing, they have verbiage in there that speaks about being able to dig in a fighter's purse in a situation like Shakur if he's not fighting for the belt because our belt, the BC belt, has helped you get in position?
Hey, look, I'm all for paying for something as long as I'm getting what I pay for. Right. And I think that we have a social contract amongst each other as human beings. Mm-hmm. But there's also a legal contract that's written into any contract, whether it says it or not. It's the covenant of good faith and fair dealing. So shouldn't I expect as a fighter that if I pay your sanctioning fee, you're going to apply your rules as they're written? Or that Absolutely. You're not going to make exceptions when you see fit? And there's all sorts of language around the rules that if the WBC decides in its sole discretion in the best interest of boxing, I don't know that I would trust them to decide what's in the best interest of boxing. I might trust Roy. I might trust you. I would look to a fighter first. And I just feel, it's almost like in my mind, I see both sides of certain aspects of it because there is some value to having these belts, right? There is some market value to having these belts, but I don't like wishy-washy rules. And I don't like the emotional, the attempts to elbow people out of the way. And I don't like it. I think like give him 15 days, just like the rules say at least. And I just think it was in poor taste. And I think that did they have the right to strip him under the rules? I guess you could make an argument. I think that why mention 15 days if you're not going to give them?
Yeah, exactly. This was more of just them wanting to extort Shakur and thinking that he's a young champion out there and they could have their way with him and have their way inside of his finances, because these guys are starting to touch some money, having broken away from certain promoters like Top Rank or, exclusive deals like with Matchroom and things of that nature. So these guys are being funded quite nicely, and so these sanctioning body heads, they want in, they want a part of that, but they're not entitled to it. But it's one of the most ridiculous things because you could see that their greed is what's happening here. It's the greed of these people. And it's something that it needs to stop. It needs to stop. And I think that this bit of exploitation that we're seeing is going to assist. Put these guys on blast. Because they, in the past, they weren't doing it. And sometimes some of these journalists, like a Chris Mannix, was having his opportunity to say something and maybe was not before. But now, it's a new day in boxing. Blue Blood's been talking about it. 78's been talking about it. We're getting ready to see a shift, people. and you really don't want to be on the worst side of things. These guys have questionable ethic. They always have. And we're getting ready to see something. But listen, here's a little bit of Mannix going back and forth with Suleiman.
For me, on behalf of the WBC, to provide our side of any topic that we will be discussing.
Okay, so let's jump right in with the most recent news. Shakur Stevenson is no longer the WBC's 135-pound champion. Why is Shakur Stevenson no longer the champion?
Thank you. Let me give you the full story. We received a call from his management in which they requested the WBC to have Shakur Stevenson fight on a different weight category while maintaining the lightweight championship, and being this a WBC event, which even they asked for a special belt for the fight. We explained clearly that that is within the WBC rules, and that I would be very happy to convey that to the board and make it happen, because Shakur has been associated with WBC since 2019. I told his management they needed to send a written request in order to start all the process. From that point on, we had another couple of conversations. They were supposed to send a written request, which didn't happen. However, I went to the convention early December. I expressed the position, the petition, the verbal petition, and it was voted in favor. However, we needed to have everything in writing, as every promoter does, and every situation has to be taken care of. Then came December, stopped absolute communications. On January, I started again the communication requesting the petition, the sanctioning petition. And then I even involved the promoter, Matchroom. And I copied also Sela, who is closely associated with the promotions. And no response whatsoever. There were some emails that they responded. Our legal team continued the communications, and they never responded whatsoever.
Now, you see, Josh said that there was a period of about 4 days that he had some personal business to attend to, right? But Suleiman is still at them. But at this juncture, what you can tell is Suleiman and the WBC, because that's who he's representing, they're after them because, or they're at Shakur going into this fight because they want to impose those fees, even though he has nothing to do with that fight. So that's why we didn't hear back from them. What do you need to hear back from them? They petitioned that they wanted to go up to fight for this belt, but they knew that they wanted to hold on to their WBC lightweight belt. So you're going to approve, because you said they voted in the affirmative for him to go ahead and do it, but now you're trying to nail him down because you want to express, hey, we want our cut for letting you go fight. You don't have nothing to do with that fight. You have nothing to do. It's not a WBC sanctioned fight. It's not a unification. It's out of your jurisdiction. And here you are, you greedy little selfish pig, trying to go out there and shake down another fighter. Unethical. And you're a liar. Continue.
To any petition of putting it in writing and receiving the final authorization.
Okay, so let me just ask this. Let me interrupt quickly. Why does Shakur Stevenson need the WBC's permission to fight in a different weight class for a different sanctioning body's title?
Because he requested that permission. If you want to keep your title, there are specific rules, and these rules have been in place for decades. When you are a champion in the WBC or any other organization, you have benefits from being a champion. When you are to engage in a non-title bout or in a title bout on another weight category, up or down, you need to receive the permission from the organization to do so. And that's what we have been consistent. It has happened so many times with many fighters. There's precedent. In fact, Benavidez is fighting in May as WBC light heavyweight champion, and he's fighting in cruiserweight for another organization. He made the petition in written, and it's the exact same case that is the way it's done by the WBC rules.
So you stripped Shakur not because he holds.
We did not strip Shakur.
Well, you vacated the title. It's kind of the same thing.
The management elected not to comply, and they eventually vacated the title because they did not comply. And we have so many written proof of everything. We published after the convention on December the 3rd the status of each weight category. I published personally on January 26th the status of each weight category, and it clearly says the WBC allowed this situation. However, we have not received any response from Shakur Stevenson, and the board is going to address this matter. And all this is published publicly, Chris. And I'll be very happy. I don't know if you received the WBC notifications. I'll be happy to add your email so you can receive it directly. But all this is public. We have never said no to an interview. We have never said no to any question. Everything is public. And it is very troubling and sensitive the way this situation has been handled. Without
Do you think
having the rules.
Shakur Stevenson told me that you asked for $120,000 in order for you to sanction that fight. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. In writing, we send a letter insisting on them we tried everything to avoid this situation. What we send is the WBC approves your petition to fight, and according to the WBC rules, a fee of $120,000, which is less than the 3% that should be, which they, by the way, they can contest and say, no, we're not making this amount, we are making this. And we have done it many times. We have adjusted the sanction fees when the promoter or the manager or the fighter proves that it is less. Since we had zero communication from their side, we initiated that, and we put $120,000 fee on they've been saying he made 7 or 10 million or whatever. We had zero response.
But what are you charging him for? The $120,000 is for what? He's not defending your belt. Your belt is not on the line. This guy is, just like I said, a pig. You guys can't see this. And Mannix is confused as well. He's listening. Listen to this. Just listen.
The only response was, we will receive it. We will address this later today.
Well, let me say this. Whatever the money was that he made, it's his money. He can do whatever he wants with it. Why do you believe? And look, this is in your rules. I'll give you that. I've read the rule that you're entitled to 50% if a fighter is fighting for a different sanctioning body, different weight class. I've read it's in your rules. I'll agree with you there.
Or 3% if it's a special event.
Right. It also says market share too. Like the market value is what I'm keying on here. The market value. Like, why do you really believe that the WBC should be entitled to $120,000, that your market value for that particular fight which was for a WBA title, a Ring Magazine title. Do you really believe that the WBC's belt?
WBO, Chris.
WBO, apologies. But do you really believe that the WBC's involvement, however, nominal, is worth $120,000?
It's worth $1 million or $1. It is not about the money.
It's a big difference. Well, it's about the money to him. It's about the money to Shakur.
Well, he chose not to continue as WBC champion, and it was his decision. It is not about the money because it's the rule. Of course, a fighter who is recognized by the WBC as a world champion has a market value, has a validity, has a seal of having a position in the boxing world at that time.
But you put a dollar figure on it. You said $120,000. You put an actual dollar figure on it. And so someone that watched that fight and fans of that fight, it's hard for me to wrap my head around $120,000 worth of value. Maybe there's some value, but $120,000 is a massive amount of money.
That is not a market value. That is a percentage based on a speculation of what he was making on the money.
But why? Why are you speculating on his money at all? If there was supposed to be a fee that you charge as a sanctioning body because he's going to go and fight someone else for a different sanctioning body's title, there should be a flat fee. It's like $25,000, $50,000, something like that. Not $100,000 plus. This is just robbery, and people can't see this. I'll let it go a little bit more, and then I'll close up.
If he had come back and said, my purse is X amount, we would modify it, as we have done in many cases.
So he's kind of being penalized for making a lot of money.
No. He's being requested to comply with the rules, Chris.
I get the rules, but it's like, are these?
But that's the rules.
Well, but should look, you bend your rules all the time. We can get to that. You bend your rules a lot.
No.
You
tell
do.
Tell me where we bend the rules.
I don't know. You let Jamal Charlo have his belt for over 2 years. That
2
feels
years,
like not ordering a mandatory. You didn't. Canelo Alvarez was a champion at 168 for a long time. You didn't force David Benavidez' fight. You didn't you bend your rules a lot, Mauricio. If we're being honest here, you bend your rules a lot.
You are being judgmental.
Oh my goodness. You hear that shit, you guys? It's like he's saying that Chris is being judgmental, and he just pointed out 2 instances where this sanctioning body didn't do what they do to everybody else for 2 people. Jamal Charlo, and Canelo. Canelo had the 168-pound undisputed title for 5 years, and Benavidez fought in about 4 different eliminators and was never mandated for Canelo to face him. Canelo would say what in interviews? Oh, all he brings is an additional 25 pounds. Isn't that what Canelo said? Mauricio never said, Canelo, you have to fight him or we have to strip you. He never said that. Never, ever, ever. This guy is something else, and he knows how to talk this shit. But his shit don't stick. It stinks, but it don't stick. Huh? There's a difference in a couple of letters there.
Why don't you open and listen to the rules and listen to my explanation?
Okay.
Why do you go and accuse and just get to a conclusion? That is not correct.
We can go case by case, but the fact that you never enforced a mandatory on Jamal Charlo for years. That's a fact.
Please let me talk. I think I deserve the courtesy, if I'm in your program, to be able to talk. Jamal Charlo. Jamal was scheduled to fight, and he got injured. He was going to make his title defense. He got injured. So the fight was postponed. Then he became in a very difficult mental health problem. So he got completely out of, he was completely disturbed in his person. The WBC ordered an interim championship with Adames in order to have the division active. I met with Jermall Charlo several times, and I promised him. He told me that the only thing in life keeping him from making a stupid decision like killing himself was because he was a WBC champion. And I I met him and his wife, and I promised him to have the full WBC support until he got his mental situation better. And if you're gonna blame that for me and say that I break the rules, I take it.
Yeah, you break the rules. You break the rules every chance you get, man. You curtail your actions according to your rule book made of silly putty. I don't know what the hell this guy needs to. Oh my goodness, you guys. This is ridiculous. Insane. Like Universal Truth says, insane.
I took the fighter's life and I took the fighter's sentiment and did not affect anyone in doing so. You want to talk about Canelo Alvarez? Benavides, same thing. Canelo was a champion. Benavides accepted to fight an interim championship. And when he fought on March of 23, I think, that was the final elimination for the mandatory position that would take place 1 year later. Before that year later that we were to enforce the fight, he moved up to light heavyweight. I can give you all the timeline of each case that you would like to discuss if you give me the opportunity, and don't judge me without knowing the facts.
You just said, and if I'm hearing you correctly, that you thought Jermall Charlo might commit suicide if he had his belt taken from him? Okay, I mean, that's serious stuff. I know he was dealing with some stuff. That's certainly some serious stuff. So
it's very clear. It was public. He had huge problems in his personal life.
I covered it.
We opted to support him. If you're going to crucify us for that, so be it. I'll take it.
Well, the Benavides had an interim title for a while. There were opportunities for you to order.
Paul Benavides put him on the line.
That they didn't get. You think he didn't want that shot?
He moved up in weight before we ordered the fight.
This dude, man. He says Benavides moved up in weight before the fight. You just heard me say Benavides fought about 4 eliminators, while Canelo picked and chose his way around the likes of what's the kid? Berlanga, what's the other kid? Jaime Munguia, all kinds of dude. It's like he fought several, and Benavides was always there. Canelo was going around. He went on a UK tour and fought guys over there, Billy Joe Saunders and all of those guys. It's like, are you kidding me? It's this guy is a liar. Listen, man. You guys can go over to Chris Mannix's channel. His channel is Chris Mannix. I'm going to put the link in the chat so you could go and watch the full shebang yourself, because no lies were told here. This guy is crazy. But we've been talking about it for a long time. We've been talking about it a long time, people. It's crazy. It is absolutely insane. But listen, I want to thank each and every one of you that came out this evening to support me and to listen to my tussle, because I thought I had a great opening point that I wanted to make about Brandon Figueroa into the Lion's Den. And I still wanted to entertain a bit more because this news had popped in, you guys, and I just had to share my piece on it. You can expect some of the other brothers to make their comments in the ensuing hours or whatever, but this is something else, man. It is something else. And like I said, I just kind of wanted to get my toe in the water as well. But I don't feel good about this at all, not in the least. It's just been horrible. Absolutely horrible. You know, what can I say, man? You listening to this foolishness, it's like you've heard it all once you've heard this, right? You've heard it all. But I'm gonna get ready to get out of here. Please like and share the show. You know, we were multi-streaming this evening, Stormy B-Man channel, the Culture and Entertainment channel, and on Rumble. We'll be back next week for another tussle. I want to say shout out to the mighty LDBC. And we'll catch you guys on the next one, man. Peace to everybody. Have a great week, huh? Have a great week, people.